We hope you will enjoy the following interviews and occasional vignettes describing the lives of some of our family members and ancestors. All the Burnettes owe a special thanks to Harvey Jr. and Roxy Burnette for their special efforts that have brought us together on this day, August 10th, 1986. Roxy, tell us your full name.
I'm a Burnette now. I better not say what I'm fixing. Roxy Burnette.
Okay.
I'm Harvey Jr.'s wife. I went by Harvey Jr.'s wife for years.
When were y'all married?
We were married in 1950.
Okay.
And when we married, the road here was not paved. And the tree here, the little house that stood on the bank there at the time was where Nan and Paul, which is Harvey Sr. and Myrtle, lived when they married. So she never knew what we wanted back up on this red hill for. But we raised 3 kids over here and had a lot of fun. And this is the little house which you see in the picture. This is the tree here, and which was torn down when we moved here. And when we moved into our house, we didn't have no paved driveway. We were very poor, and we still are, but we have a lot to be thankful for. And which I married into one of the best families around. I wouldn't take nothing for it. And you can say anything about them, and I can say anything about them, but don't you come in and say too much about them. No outsider can come in and say too much about them, because that's what I am. I'm kind of like your mama. I'm a Burnette and will always be a Burnette.
The house we were showing at the beginning, by the way, was the house where Uncle Harvey and Aunt Myrtle lived. Where did grandmother live at the time that this house was?
She lived here.
She did?
She lived in the same house with Merle and Harvey, and I understand all the clan lived in this little house when Merle and Harvey married.
And when did they move over to the house over here on the hill?
That was before my time in the family. It was before they were living there when Harvey and I married. Harvey Jr. and I married. They ran the dairy here years ago, and Aunt Grace and Uncle Gene lived here. And I hear them tell the stories back and forth how they pitty-patted up and down the road, and Aunt Jim always carried Harvey, and it's just amazing to sit back and listen to them tell the stories about it. They're not stories, they're good stories, which our kids, a lot of them has never heard.
Tell us.
It would really be, good for them to take.
Tell us the names of your children.
My oldest is Dexter, and Deborah Gaynor now is my oldest daughter, and Dale is my youngest daughter. And I have 5 grandchildren. I have 4 granddaughters and 1 grandson, which we don't get to see often, but when we get to see them, it's good.
Are they all going to be here?
All except the grandson will be here. So
Okay.
He's in Florida, and he doesn't get to come back home often. But they lived right across the hill, across the way for several years, and he knows what Burnetteville is. Whether he ever gets to come back or not, he still knows what Burnetteville is. And
in the morning, it's all going to take place right here?
oh, it's all going to take place right here. That's right. And we're just looking forward to it. I got up Sunday night and went to bed and thinking, I'm not going to worry about this, It's not going to get on me. You're not going to get next to me. I'm just going to take one day at a time this week and do what I've got to do. And then Thursday came and got in there in that good old barbecue, cutting it up. And then I got to thinking, gee, it's only 2 more days. I can't hardly wait. And then the phone started ringing, which Kathy came by the office one day and we was talking and just talking about the family in general. And she said, wouldn't it be good to have a family reunion? I said, why don't we have one? And she said, well, if you get it together, I'll help you.
How long ago has that been?
Oh, about a month ago. About a good month ago. And I says, well, we'll get right on it today. So the first thing I did, I reached over and picked up the telephone and called Aunt Rachel. We set it for this date, put it on your calendar. And then I called John, and then I called the others. And it just all fell in place.
How many years has it been since we've had one? Do you remember?
9 years since we've had one. The last one we had was out at Mountain Gap over at the campground. since the last time we've had one. And tomorrow I'll have pictures on the board where kids through the years, even you and I, when Harvey and I married, will be on the boards. You might not know yourself, you little as the baby.
Cousin Harvey, tell us your full name.
Harvey Daniel Burnette, Jr.
Tell us when you were born.
December the 14th, 1929.
And your parents?
Because since I'm junior, that should be pretty obvious. Harvey D. Burnette Sr. and Myrtle Florence Cook Burnette.
And they died?
Dad died in 81. Mama died November 21st of this past year, 85.
Roxy was just telling us about the old house sitting right on this spot.
Yeah, the house used to sit out, would be on the edge of the road for still ever since they widened the road. This tree, you see, is one-sided and all, was where the limbs grew crooked because of the shop building under here that made it grow crooked, and the house was right out here. Just last 3 months ago, had the old foundation of the old dairy barn turned out, and you can see the foundation still here for the old silo, which was between the 4 big barns.
I see it. That's the silo that was actually used then.
Sure.
Yeah. When did you move over in the what I call the old house?
Daddy built in about 58. Rox and I built a little house on the corner in 50 when we married. Lived there until Daddy built the other house, which he moved sometime, I think, during 58. We traded him a small house for the big old house, remodeled it, lived there 3 years. Moved in here June 21st, 1961.
My dad used to tell me stories about when you were really little and when he got married to Mother, and I heard that you went along on the honeymoon. Is that true?
Partially. I was with him. If you remember, your daddy was married before to Bernice Showers. She died of blood poisoning from having a tooth pulled.
Right.
And he was lonesome, so he got me to travel with him one summer when he was, I believe I was 9 years old, right after Bernice had died. He was relief manager for B. Lord's pecan stations in the tourist shops. I stayed with him, I think, a couple of weeks over to Indian Springs, and then we went to Florida to Bonita Springs and Hernando, and seemed like one other place, but I can't remember it. Maybe that was the only ones I actually went to. And then he left there to go to South Carolina, and he had been dating a different girl nearly every night. And I told him when he got to Hernando that I wasn't going to put up with him, even though I was only 9 years old, him dating every night. Me and I'd be up to 1 or 2 o'clock every night with him dating. And he promised me he wouldn't, but he got married that week instead of just dating.
Tell me something about grandmother.
Your grandmother?
Great-grandmother.
Wait a minute.
To some of the kids.
We one generation removed now.
Your grandmother.
You're talking about Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Mary Elizabeth Daniel.
Yeah,
Burnette.
who was living here at the time. You never knew Granddad.
No, he died.
My great-granddad.
No, he died when Arthur was 16 months old, and Arthur was about 10.
Why did I say that? My granddad and your granddad.
Yeah.
We're cousins.
Yeah. I said we was one generation removed. While we're not, are we? I'm just older than you are.
Not much.
Frank just got a later start.
I did that.
I'm talking about your daddy, Frank.
Oh, my dad. Well, I got a later start, too. My little boy's 2.5.
All right. No, I never knew. But I did know great-grandmother Frances.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Tell us about her.
Well, she had some sayings she used to say. She kept candy and money hid in her bed. She's bedridden most of the time. I remember she was up for some number of years when I was a child, but then she eventually got bedridden, and they kept her bed in the living room over there so she could visit with people come and go. Earlier years, I remember that her, Frances, and Lizzie, and Mama, and myself used to, B.W. Middlebrooks used to bring out pecans, cracked pecans by the barrels full, the 10, 15 barrels at a time out. And they'd sit around the kitchen table and earn their money picking out pecans and sorting them in halves, perfect halves and broken pieces and all for him. And he'd bring them back and forth, and they worked for him out there. But eventually she got bedridden, and she was, as I said, living in the living room. And the day she died, Grandma Lizzie sent me to town to tell Daddy, and I rode the mule to town. That was way back before the road was widened, paved, anything else, and we only had an old ragged pickup truck at the time. So,
Who was she now? Do you remember her full name?
Frances Pitts Daniel.
And she was grandmother's
She's
mother.
Lizzie's mother.
Lizzie's
yeah.
mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did grandmother die?
I guess I was, well, I would say about when I was about 9 years old. Now I'm 56. I'll be 57 in December.
Oh, you're talking about when Frances died.
Yeah.
And Lizzie died?
It's hard to say. I remember, but going to the funeral, all that. But I'd say 15, 18 years ago. I'd have to look that up.
I'll have to look up that date. Me too. We thought we might get a chance to ride up there.
What the grave is?
I don't know where it is.
All right, it's here in the Greenwood Cemetery. Were you aware that before Grandma died, she had Arthur Sr. moved from the old family plot down on Willis Road up here and prepared a place because someone had made a mistake and buried Grace's child that died right shortly after birth or at birth, too close to put Grandma's coffin next to it, Grandma Liz's coffin next to Grandpa Arthur. So she had him moved up here to Greenwood Cemetery and bought a lot and fixed it up, and it's up in Greenwood Cemetery.
I didn't know why, but I did know he was moved, and I remember at the time he was moved, my dad ended up with his false teeth.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, grandmother, my mother now has them, and I don't know where, I've forgotten all about it till you mentioned that.
Well, he was buried, I was young at the time. I think that was even prior to me getting married, about the time I got married when I was about 20, but I did not go to the digging up. But I remember that the farm help did it. James Battle, the black man that Grandma raised from a child, helped, and I remember him talking about it for months afterwards, about how little they found in the grave and so forth. But he helped. He was one of the ones that dug up. He and I believe Thomas Tuggle, I believe, was the other one that was working on the farm at the time, was a tractor driver. Well, we got sophisticated, but then had a tractor, and well, that's how the family wealth got started. We got any wealth. Daddy borrowed all the money he could borrow on every insurance policy in the family to make a down payment on the tractor. And he hired 2 drivers. And of course, I was only about 10, 11 years old, and I got to be a pretty fancy driver myself. And in fact, Daddy had some customers that demanded I drive a tractor when they hired him because I was better driving than 2 grown men. Mr. C.L. Odom in particular was one that always would not let Daddy do his work until I could do the driving. And I was only about 10, 11 years old at the time.
Well, now, I had always assumed that most of your livelihood came from the grocery store.
Well, now, the grocery store was not, because now, you know, the family had a grocery store back prior to World War II. But Daddy always told that they were hurting other people's business until they were tricked into selling out because it was hurting other people's business, and it was bought and closed out because they were taking so much business, because much business back then was peanuts. You couldn't even survive. And of course, I don't think they had about $500 to open up with back then, but you could buy everything on credit and sell it on credit back then and do pretty well. But they closed that up sometime in I think about 37. I don't really know the facts, but I have very, very vague remembrance of that. But it was probably about 37 that they sold, only in business a few months, sold out. And from that, Daddy went to work for as market manager for Rogers, which was the forerunner of Colonial stores, Big Apple, Big Star, and all those. Not Big Apple, but Big Star.
Right.
As forerunners, back then they had 4 branches: Rogers, Penda, Little Star, and Big Star. Now it's all just big Colonial stores now. But Daddy was market manager here, and I went to work in the market. At 9 years old, old-fashioned meat cases, I had to stand on an apple box to reach over in the meat case, get meat out to wait on customers. And then Daddy had to quit during when the war started. Mama was an invalid. You aware that she had what's called milk lag and was bedridden for several years when John was born. And Daddy had Mama, an invalid, had 64 units of farm deferment points. But as long as he was working in the market, that canceled his 64 units, and it took 16 to defer you. And the president of the draft board came to Daddy one Friday, I believe it was, and told Daddy, said, if you're in here Monday morning, you'll be in next week's draft. Daddy said, I've got an invalid wife, says I can't be drafted. Said, somebody got to stay and take care of my wife. And the man said, I'm sorry, but if you're in this market Monday morning, you will be in next week's draft. So Daddy quit Saturday night and used the 64 farm units to defer himself from the war because Mama was bedridden at the time and had no one to take care of Mama. So he had just bought that tractor and was doing his own tractor work and was working for the public with that tractor And I believe at that point in time when he hired 2 drivers and started working the tractors 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. He wouldn't work on Sunday. And he was beginning to make a little money from that, more so than he made manage the market. So just the Lord working in mysterious ways, I guess, to help him get his start. And then a few months later, as the war got worse, the not the draft board, but the rationing board called Daddy, told him to come up there, they want to talk to him. And so he went up to see what they wanted, and they said, we have approved you for this tractor. Daddy says, what tractor? They said, the county has been awarded 1 tractor for the county, and we voted to let you have it. They said, I don't know about it. I hadn't even put in for it, and I don't have money to buy it. They said, well, I'm sorry, but it was a unanimous vote. Said every other farmer in the county has applied for it except you. And we talked to them and said, you're doing public work. So if we let you have it, it'll benefit the whole county. But if we let one of these other farmers have it, it'll only benefit that one farmer. So it's a unanimous vote. It's yours. Go borrow money and buy it. So Daddy went and borrowed money and bought that tractor and hired 2 more drivers. And that's where he really got his financial start. Was during the war, working for everybody. And he did keep the tractors running 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, unless the weather prohibited it.
And it was sometime after that then the Burnette grocery, as I remember it,
Daddy was able to save up some money, and Arthur was off in the Army as a captain. I think was roped out. Well, that's rope was a new term now. I was roped out to the guards. He got out as a major. He had saved some money, so Daddy and Arthur went in partnerships and opened up a store in the B.W. Middlebrooks building, the old 3-story building there on Poisson Street. That was opened up, I guess, about 43, just before I went off school, because I worked there a couple of weeks before I went off to Emmanuel school. They didn't want me to go off school in high school. And so I guess about 43. And I believe 50, I may be rusting my dates, 54, I believe, when they built the building across from City Hall.
And what do the Burnettes work there?
Which of the Burnettes work?
I know a lot of them have worked there on and off.
Well,
Can you tell some of them?
I guess on and off, all of them did except your daddy. You know, he was the only renegade in the family that wouldn't get in the grocery business. He had to be in the furniture business. You know, my genealogy is that all the men on both sides of my family, from my grandfather forward, on both sides, except for your daddy, was in the grocery business. And I had to get in the grocery business and had to outdo them, just prove I could do it. And then when I did it, there was no longer a challenge, so that's when I got out and got in real estate.
Well, we both are happy with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back.
Tell us your fondest memory of Lizzie.
Well, there's a whole lot of them. Of course, I don't know which would be the fondest, but I remember the work. She could tell you more to do in 10 minutes you could do in a week. As far as that goes, she kept the farm hopping. Of course, back in those times, you didn't make the money. The farm never really made the money until Daddy was out here full time. But she could name everything to do. We got up in the morning around 5 o'clock, milked cows, bottled milk. Because, you know, all the old people in Barnesville still like to tell the stories about Grandma riding around town with a horse and buggy before trucks became popular. Well, for icicles off of the horse's nose, and your dad and all of them, Daddy was a little too big. He stayed home plowed at that time, hopping off and on the buggy, delivering milk all over town. I guess you've heard that.
I've heard that story. I sure have.
All the old people that are old enough to remember it, there's very few of them left, still mention that when they see me. Of course, I'm a mix-up. Everybody thinks I'm the youngest one of the oldest generation, but as you know, I'm the oldest one of the second generation.
Okay, tell me your name.
Deborah Gaynor, Burnette Gaynor.
Burnette Gaynor.
Right.
Okay, when were you born?
July the 30th, 1952. I just had a birthday, by the way.
Tell us your mom and dad.
Harvey and Roxy Burnette.
Okay, and tell us how many children you have.
I have 2 children, got 2 girls, one 6, Jennifer Lee, and one 18 months, Crystal Roxanne, named after her 2 grandmothers.
And your husband's name?
Harvey Jr., believe it or not.
When did y'all get married?
We got married December the 29th, 1974. Had a Christmas wedding.
Tell us just some memories as far back as you can remember about anyone you want to talk about.
As far back as I can remember. I guess my fondest ones are Grandma Lizzie and her taking me fishing down at the little pond just back behind here of us. And she'd go down there and sit for hours patiently, and you know, seemingly we would always catch all the fish, and she, you know, would brag even though ours would be about this long.
Okay, that's great. And your grandparents?
My grandparents, Harvey and Myrtle, are no longer with us, but often thought of. In fact, I was listening to something just the other day. John, my Uncle John, taped our wedding ceremony back in '74, and I had never really sat down and listened to the whole thing. And he came on saying, "This is the roving reporter at the reception of Deborah and Harvey's wedding, and we're going to interview the grandparents." And I won't ever forget what I heard on that tape the other day. Paul said, we call him Paul, and my children call him plain Paul because I couldn't get it through to them that, you just call him Paul, not Pawpaw. So, but on that tape he came through and he said, in every situation in marriage, he said, 1 hour a day in prayer cure all the things that go wrong. And I never had listened to it before, but now that I had lost him and, went back and heard this on the end, it was just a little nugget that I'll always treasure.
That's nice. And Aunt Myrtle?
Aunt Myrtle, nanny to me. I I just thought of something I tried to cook that she always cooked, but somehow hers always came out flat and good, and mine blew up like a bomb and tasted awful. And she used to make these little peach fried pies in a frying pan, and somehow they always came out scorched and a little burnt, but they were always the best things to me that I ever ate. And I was trying to copy her recipe. Needless to say, I failed. They were awful. My kids wouldn't eat them, and even the cat next door wouldn't have them when I got through. So I've given up on trying to copy her recipe.
And I don't think I asked you all your children's names, did I?
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Jennifer Lee and
Aunt Grace,
Yeah,
tell us your full name.
Annie Grace Burnette Green.
Burnette Green.
Yeah.
And tell us about your parents.
Well, my daddy was just 42 years old when he died with the flu, and Mama was 77, and she died 22nd of February 1962. Papa died real young. He was just 42. He died with the flu, and he died when he was just 42, and he died the 10th of December 1918.
1918. Tell us some of your best memories about him.
Well, I tell you, my dad was one of the best men I've ever known. I never heard him say anything as bad as doggone it, but one time in his life, and I went in the house and cried after he said it. Him and Uncle Ben was dressing a cow, and it kind of slipped, and he didn't hit the right place with his knife, and he said, doggone it, and I just went in the house and cried like a baby. He was the best natured human you ever saw.
And you lived right here for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, I lived here about 20 years. And let's see, Jean and Joni were both born here in the old house that was here.
We got a picture of that old house.
Yeah, good.
Where were you raised with Granddaddy Arthur and Aunt Liz and Grandma Liz?
I was born over at Milner's Crossroad, about a mile and a half across from here. And that's where they lived when I was born.
And tell us something about your brothers and sisters.
Well, I had 5 brothers. 5 brothers and 1 sister. Me and the sister still living, and 1 brother, on his Arthur. He's still living, that's all.
And how many children do you have?
7.
And your husband?
He was Wiley Eugene Green. He died in 1974.
And what do you know about your grandparents?
My grandma Tom Burnette, and her name was Martha Virginia Burnette. I remember them both very well. I even remember when my great-granddaddy died. He must have died about 1907. But I remember them both real well. Grandpa was a real stingy man. He'd go to town and buy a chew tobacco and chew it a week.
And where did he live?
Down on the line of Upson and Pike County, about 5 miles over that way. You never have been over to the old home place?
No.
I wish you could have seen it.
Is it still there?
No, it's fallen down just the, well, the under part of the house and all, but it's fallen down.
What about on grandmother's side?
grandmother Burnette,
Yeah,
Mama
Lizzie.
Well, I don't remember nobody but Grandma Daniel. She lived here with us at the time we lived here.
And you didn't know your Grandpa Daniels?
No, he was killed when he was 42. He was taking a bunch of horses to water them, and one of them bit the one that he was on, and it raised up and threw him off, and the whole string of horses stomped him to death when he was 42 years old, and she was left with 7 children, just like her and Mama and me.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well, that's right.
Where were they from?
Over in Talbot County. They own 700 acres of land over there that's still under law that nobody can get a good deed to it. And they were just beat out of it because they were so ignorant when Grandpa got killed. They didn't know how to take care of the situation.
They were ranchers?
No, they just owned a lot of land, and there was 5 boys there, and they attended a lot of the land till they all left home.
And I remember when I was a kid, you used to work in the grocery store, Uncle Harvey's grocery store.
Well, I worked in Barnesville. I was bookkeeper for 54 years. I just retired when I was 74.
And that was always through Uncle Harvey's business, was it always?
No, I worked for B.W. Middlebrooks. He run a pecan place. You remember B.W. Middlebrooks and B. Lloyd.
B. Lloyd, I remember, of course.
Well, they were in business just alike, and I shipped pecans and kudzu all over the United States.
It shipped kudzu?
Kudzu. I shipped kudzu to every country in the world except the Soviet Union.
They wanted it for ground cover?
Yeah. At Fort Knox, I bet there's 20 loads up there now made out the order for. So they cover Fort Knox with it. Camouflage.
What's it? What was it? Seed or?
No, there's little plants.
Little plant?
A foot long. They cut them up in a little foot long plant and bundle them up in bundles of 100, and got $3 a hundred for them. And they really have covered up Fort Knox, they tell me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I never retired till I was 74. I was just give out when I retired. But I had 600 income tax customers when I retired that I kept till last year, and I can't write now. I tremble. It's the only reason I give them up.
Why'd you wait so long to retire?
Well, I was in pretty good health till 2 years ago. And then I went up to Nashville to Johnny's, and they said I'd had 2 strokes and 2 heart attacks.
And you didn't know it at the time?
I couldn't walk, so I knew something had happened, but I didn't know what in the world it was. I just kept on trying to go. And still try.
Tell us something about some of your children.
Well, I think all my children have done very well. 2 of them in law enforcement. Cicero's police, and Mount is head of this section of State Patrol of 4 different counties. And Johnny, of course, is a doctor.
I saw Gene up here too.
Yeah, Gene was a school teacher, but he retired this year. He's got a bad back. So.
And is Johnny going to be here?
No, Johnny can't come. He was off the 9th of July, and he can't get off too often. But he's really making a name for himself at Vanderbilt.
He's a professor at Vanderbilt?
He's a professor and practicing doctor.
Both?
Both. When I went up there, they treated me like royalty. Even the chancellor sent me a big bouquet.
What's his name? Johnny?
John Wayne.
John Wayne.
He was born right there in that whole house, and I worked till 9:30 that night, and he was born before 11. I typed up 100 orders the day he was born.
And he was your last child?
He was my last one. And Evangeline, of course, lives in Baton Rouge. And Marianne lives in Pensacola, Florida. And Molly has had mental trouble, and she's living over at Columbus now, but she's doing real, real well. She's got her job.
Well, that's wonderful. We had heard that she'd had some problems.
Yeah, but she's doing real good now. Even met her boyfriend. I hope it amounts to something.
Well, tell us one of your fondest memories of Lizzie.
Well, Mama,
What did you call her?
call her Mama.
Called her Mama.
Mama was very strict. I remember one night she wouldn't let us stay out later than 10 o'clock, and I had a date with a boy one night, and the car broke down. We had a flat or something. I don't forget, but she had the sheriff and the whole county out looking for us because it was after 10 o'clock. I thought it was so funny, and she laughed about it afterward, but she didn't think it was funny then. She was ready to kill somebody.
And which one of the children are you in number?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah, I'll be 81 the 18th of November.
You were born what year, did you tell?
1905.
1905.
Mm-hmm. You said too much.
No, you've been wonderful, and we loved it.
We love y'all, too.
WT and Jimmy Lou's daughter.
And which
And
one?
I have 4 children and 3 grandchildren.
Tell us the name of your children.
My children are Candy and Lori and Dee and Johnny.
And they're all married, I think.
No, Lori is not married.
Lori's how old?
She's 29 and fixing to start vet school come August.
Wonderful.
She's going to be a doctor.
Uh-huh.
Now what else do
I
you
want
want?
to know something about
You want to
your
hear this
parents.
southern? My parents. Let me see. Who are they? Jimmy Lou is my mom. WT is my dad. He's dead.
And he died?
And he died, what, June
70.
1970. He's been dead 7 years.
79 maybe, or something like that. Okay.
I can't remember.
That's all right.
I try to blot those things
I
out of my
understand.
life. Do you?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I manage it too.
Right. I do too.
Tell us your fondest thoughts about him.
My fondest thoughts about my father was given to everybody but us. No, he gave us. Daddy was a very loving father. He gave to us and to everybody else. He never thought of himself. So I guess that's
I remember being a wonderful guy. I
Right.
really do. I remember the old slaughterhouse near where y'all live
Right.
from when I was a kid.
Right. And when we got home from school in the afternoons, we had to fill the back porch up with wood because it looked like rain. Whether it rained or not, the back porch was filled with wood. You got up at 4 in the morning and went down and picked the turnips and the collards. Then you came up and you got ready for school, had breakfast, went to school, came home, did the same thing, the same ritual all day. Then Harvey and Arthur and WT take all the children about 15 miles from the house and put them out in the cotton fields and say bye-bye until dark.
Were you
Those
born?
are my fondest memories.
Those are some good memories.
I was born in Barnesville, up over old Burnette's grocery store. The first
You lived
Burnette.
there at the time?
Yeah, when I was born, yeah.
The
And
first
then-
I remember is you living up on the hill.
No, well, that was after I was in the 3rd grade. And then,
And I want you to introduce us to your husband.
And this is my husband, Perry Bush.
Hello, hello. Yeah.
And y'all were married when?
Oh, first day of March, 1930.
And been married ever since.
And we had a daughter. We were married the first day of March, and we had a daughter born the last day of March.
3 years later. Tell that on me.
Tell that again. How long later?
3 years later.
Oh, okay.
He always tells that on me, Frankie.
Yeah. You were born which one of the children?
I was the 3rd one, and I was born February the 9th, 1910.
And where did you live when you were born?
Wait a minute. Oh, Sugar Hill, Georgia.
Sugar Hill.
That's why I'm so sweet.
And when did you move out here?
Well, that was in this area. Sugar Hill is just a little name of a town.
Okay.
It's out from Barnesville. But then we moved to moved out here in 1925.
And tell us something about your dad.
Well, I don't remember too much about my dad, except I remember how sweet he was. And he never scolded me as long as I can remember. And the only thing he ever did was love me. And he asked me to go to the pasture gate to help him drive the cows down. And he always called me Doll. And he would say, Doll, come on and help me. And I just don't remember too much about him because I was only 8 years old. I remember little things about being in the cotton patch with him when the armistice bells and everything started ringing after the war, First World War. I remember that, and I remember riding to town with him on a buggy, and I remember walking through the woods to Grandpa Burnette's house. And that's about all I remember about my father.
What did you call him?
Dad.
Okay, and tell us about your mom.
Well, my mama was the most wonderful person. I'll cry, Frankie.
That's okay.
But anyway, Mama...
I cry when I think about her, too.
Mama was about the bravest person on earth. She always let us do all she could to make us happy. But we worked real hard. And I remember when I was at Garden, I remember milking... I was right here on this ground where we are now, and the milk shed was right down there. I remember milking 9 cows every morning and 9 every afternoon. And I fixed lunches for all the children to go to school after I helped down at the milk house and separated the cream from the milk, and did all that and washed up all that. Then we went to school every day. And when I would come home from school in the afternoon, we would have to milk the cows early because they had to deliver the milk. And then she'd let me, when we got a car, take my car to town and let me ride around, and all the garden boys would get on the running board. We had a T-model Ford, and she let me drive up there, and we'd all just had the best time. And she enjoyed watching us have fun. She really did. And she was just great. She really was.
Tell us about your children.
I have one daughter. We have one daughter, Barbara Bush, and Barbara married Churchill, what he likes to be called Bob Carter. And he was the son of Dr. and Mrs. R.L. Carter in Thomaston, Georgia. And they have one son, and they live in Atlanta. Barbara taught school for 13 years, and she's been in real estate for 14 years. That's why she's not here today, is because she does most of her work on weekends. Mm-hmm. And if you don't quit making me laugh, I won't hit you. Anyway, he's trying to show you a picture of his daughter.
Wait, I didn't get that.
There it is.
Wait.
Here it is.
It's awful. That's not really, you know.
Of course, that's not her.
We've got a real jokester.
Oh.
Anyway, Barbara is our pride and joy, and her husband is just as sweet to us. You would think he was our own son. In fact, when I was sick 2 years ago, had surgery, and he came down and stayed with me just like she did. I mean, she'd stay with Perry, and he'd go stay at the hospital room with me. He's just like our own child.
Tell us something about your brothers and sisters.
Well, I had 5 brothers and 1 sister, and you want me to start the young one?
Whichever ones or all of them you want to talk about.
Harvey, of course, was just like a father to us because he was the oldest boy, and he stayed home all the time and didn't go to school like the rest of us. And he was kind of like a daddy to all of us. And then there was Grace. Well, Grace was older, and then Harvey, and then Debbie T. And Debbie T. has been gone several years. I've forgotten how many. And let's see now, I was on Grace and Harvey I've talked about, and Debbie T. I've said it had passed away, and then Frank, and then Jerry, and then Arthur.
Tell us some of your youthful memories about them.
I'd have to show you, Frankie. This is what they all did to me when they passed me. They high, slick, and just pinched me something awful. I remember that all the time. Every one of them picked on me like that. Every one of them. But I loved them, everyone, very dearly.
And obviously they were showing your love to you, too.
They were.
My dad?
And the Wolferettes?
Yeah.
Well, they had a big barn out here in the back. This way they used to live. And they had a lot of cows, had cow feed. Naturally, there's a lot of wolf rats around. And they used to put a fish basket out there and catch wolf rats. And one day I was out here with Frank, and he had the fish basket, had about 8 or 9 big wolf rats in it. And they carried it out here into a field, which the field had been plowed, it's soft ground, and opened up the end of that fish basket, let the rats out. They went every which way, and he stood there with a .22 rifle, killed every one of them before they got away.
Sound like something he would have done.
Yeah.
He liked to hunt.
Yeah, sure did.
Tell us your name.
Jim Lou Burnette. I'm Deputy Burnette's wife. I have 5 children.
Tell us about your children.
I have 2 boys and 3 girls. I had 4 babies, and then I waited 11 years and had Kathy. As she says, it's my pride and joy. They were all great. I love them all.
Tell us something about Uncle T.
Oh, goodness, he was the greatest. The greatest man in the world. It's the reason I hadn't got married. I can't find one like him. He was good. He was a good father, husband.
And when did he die?
He died June 30th, 1977. Buried on July the 2nd.
Tell us how y'all met.
How we met? Well, I met him July the 4th. He carried me home from town. It was raining.
Is that Barnesville?
Barnesville, his brother Harvey said, wait, and my brother will come by and pick you up and take you home. So he carried me home. And in 2 weeks, Harvey met me on the street. He says, Jim Lou said, my brother wants to date with you. And I said, if he wants to date with me, let him ask me. So he did. And we started dating, and October the 4th, we got married. Went together 2.5 months. So, as he always said, it was love at first sight. So, that's how long we was married, 47 years.
47 years. You remember Grandma Lizzie?
Oh, yes.
Very well.
I always carried Grandma. You know, I helped her deliver milk when she couldn't go. I'd get in the truck, and here we'd go, me and John. Some of the boys would go and deliver milk. And I don't think there was ever a funeral in Ma County that Grandma didn't have to go to, you know, and Jim had to drive her. Yeah, she was a dear old soul.
You remember something about her funeral? You know, I've been wanting somebody to tell about that. Can you remember it very well? I remember it being such a very large funeral. So many people came.
Oh, yes, it was. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I remember so many flowers and so forth. I'm going to find someone to tell us about that. Who would be good?
Well, Deb T's funeral had at the Baptist church, and it was run over. Some of them was turned away, and the whole front of the church and the windows was just full of flowers.
All the Burnettes have really been loved in this community.
Yes, they sure have. But he really had a pride at his funeral, because the Baptist church is real big, and said even some of the kinfolks had to be turned away. And I said they ought to push them in the chair somewhere.
Okay, we started the interview a little while ago and couldn't get it going.
All right.
Tell us your name.
I am Rachel. Now I am Rachel O. McKay. I was Rachel Burnette until 1971 when Daddy passed away. I'm today where Daddy used to live when he was a boy, on this same property. Now I have 3 children and 6 grandchildren that I'm very happy over. And it's a pleasure being here today with all of these wonderful people. I'm glad that I was ever a Burnette. I think it's a wonderful inheritance to my children to have come up in this family. They're good people. I look around and see a lot of them I don't know, but there's a closeness here that I am enjoying today. I love all of y'all. It's great. Now I've married Robert McKay, and my life has changed. I may not be coming back often anymore. This may be it, so I wanted to be here today. Because, of course, we'll have another family now to attend to and take care of.
Tell us something special about Frank.
He was a wonderful man.
I can only think of him as a wonderful person. Everybody said today, you look more like him the older you get. If you can stand up and measure up to your father, you'll be a good man, Matt, always. And I believe you are.
And tell us something about Lizzie.
And she was a marvelous woman. She loved all of her family, all of her children. This would have been her pleasure today to have been here in a big rocker greeting everybody. She loved all the children. And this is where she started out when her husband died, right on this piece of property. You knew that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Right here on this piece of property. She lived a long, good life. Left a good memory to all of the children that remember her, that she was good. She's wonderful. Harvey and Merle now gone. Junior and Roxy live here. And I guess they'll carry on the family. They're the only one that I believe will try to continue the family, trying to hold the Burnettes together. It's good. It's wonderful. You want to come love Granny and let them see you with Granny? Come on, let them see you with Granny. This is my youngest and my only Burnette. This is Ryan, Matthew Ryan. Tell them who this is. And who's in that?
You want to say hello to Mommy, Ryan?
Tell me who's in this. Who's in there? That's Granddaddy Bob. Granddaddy Bob's in there. Granddaddy Bob, that's when he was in.
They would like to have a group picture of everybody to start with. Please move up front of the house. You can't tell who they are when you get the picture back. We're not part of the family. Get in the pile, Junior. Hey, get over in the pile. Squeeze it in. Blue Mike.
Hey, little what? Come here.
There we go. Get out of the picture.
Arthur, introduce yourself.
I'm Arthur O. Burnette, born 1918.
And introduce your wife to us.
My wife on the left here is Mildred Louise Garrett Burnette. She was born in 1924.
24. I'm Louise Garrett Burnette. What else you want me to say?
Tell us about your children.
Oh, my children. We have 2 daughters, Cheryl Lynn Burnette, who is a school teacher, and Sandra K. Burnette, who's a caseworker. And we have a son-in-law, Joseph Wick Hatch III, who is a building contractor. That's Sandra's husband.
Okay. And you're, if I remember correctly, the youngest.
I'm the youngest of all the older generation of Burnettes.
And do you remember your father?
No, sir, I do not. My father died when I was 2 months old.
2 months old. Tell us about your mother.
Well, I remember mother from the days of old, and my grandmother, who did most of my raising, and I used to cry to go with my mother everywhere she would go in the day of business. She'd slip off and leave me, and I remember rocking myself to sleep a many a day crying to go with her.
And your fondest memory of her?
Well, I remember the traits that she taught us: to work hard, be honest, and love the Lord.
Tell us something about your brothers and sisters.
Well, I had 4 other brothers, all deceased now, and I have 2 sisters which both are living, Grace Green and Miss Perry Bush from Thomaston, Georgia.
And Grace was the oldest, and I remember Uncle Harvey was kind of dad.
He was our father to us because we didn't have a living father at the time, and he took over with mother and made our living and guided us till we all got grown and went in business for ourselves.
What do you remember as home place?
Well, I guess you would say this place here we're sitting now, mostly my childhood life was spent here. I remember living here and milking cows and going to town to deliver milk from this particular place.
Okay. All right. Anything special you want to tell about your youth?
Well, the only thing, I don't know of any outstanding thing that I could tell about my youth, but I did have the opportunity of going to school, going to church, and received a commission in the U.S. Army, and finally went into the grocery business, retired from the grocery business now, and living on Thomaston Street in Barnesville, Georgia. Have a nice wife and 2 daughters, and have nothing to worry about except the heavenly home.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Aunt Lois, tell us your name.
Lois Bevel Burnette, B-E-V-L, Bevel Burnette.
That was your maiden name?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
When did you get married?
Oh, 1934.
And you were married to?
Jerry Gordon Burnette.
And tell us something about him.
Well, he was a good man, I know that.
I know he was.
Yeah, and I loved him. And we had a good life.
Tell us something about your children.
Well, I got so many. Well, they're all good, and I love them all.
Most of them are here.
What? No, just 2.
Only 2? 3?
Yeah,
okay.
Larry and Sonny and Mike. You know, they're not here.
Right.
And Sam, he's in Germany.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm going over next month to see him.
And when did you move out here on Burnette Hill?
Oh, Lord. We've been living there about 30 years. But not in the same house.
Right.
No, we built.
Yeah. And when you got married, where'd you live?
We lived with Jerry's mother, Miss Burnette.
Oh, you did?
For a while, Yeah.
And where was that?
That was in the old house. I know you don't remember the old house.
Not the house that was on this spot, the
no,
house up here. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I remember that
old
one.
house, yeah.
You lived there for a while.
Yeah. And then he worked for Rogers, you know, and he was transferred, you know, every once in a while to different towns.
And tell us something about Lizzie.
About what?
Lizzie, what did you call her? Grandmother Burnette?
Miss Burnette.
Ms. Burnette.
Yeah.
Tell us some of your memories about her.
She was a sweet person. She was good to everybody, and I loved her too.
She was a sweet lady, she sure was.
She sure was.
Yeah.
A hard worker.
And you still live up on the hill?
And she made all those children work, and they still work.
They still do.
They still work. That's good. Work don't hurt nobody. They hurt themselves, but work doesn't hurt, Doesn't hurt anybody to work.
I remember as a young kid coming and having Christmas at y'all's house.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure do.
Those were good days.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they sure were good days. Been lots of changes, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Sure has.
Well, is there anything about those old days you'd like to tell us about that's real special to you?
Oh, I'm telling you so many till I just can't, pin it down.
We're glad you were here.
Yeah. And I'm glad to be here. So nice to see y'all too.
Thank you.
Wish y'all would come up more.
We probably will.
Will do. Please do.
Okay.
Sure would love to have y'all.
Thank you. Cousin Jean, tell us your name.
Wiley E. Green, Jr.
And your parents?
Grace and Jean Green.
And tell us something about your dad.
Well, Dad was 20 years older than Mother, and really he was an old man when the first of us was born. He was a real bird hunter and a farmer all of his life.
You told me something about the old gun that your dad, you thought, gave it to mine.
Yeah, I feel that I can recall the time Uncle Frank and Arthur were the only two that took up time with Dad as far as hunting. And I believe sometime just prior to the Second World War, Dad gave it to him for hunting with him.
And tell us something about Aunt Grace.
Well, of course, there was 7 of us children, and Mother worked side by side with Dad in the field. At times worked 3 jobs. As a matter of fact, when our youngest brother was born in 1944, Mother worked 3 jobs until 9:30 at night, and Johnny was born at 10:30.
She was a
hard-working lady.
Yeah, she's a wonderful lady. Tell us
sure
something
is.
about your brothers and sisters.
Well, the oldest sister's Evangeline. She lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And she has 4 children, and last count, something like 11 or 12 grandchildren. Cicero's the oldest son. Has 2 children, lives in Barnesville. He's a city policeman. I'm the 3rd son. I'm retired from the Air Force and retired from teaching school this year. Mountain is the next son. He's a state patrolman, lieutenant on the state patrol. Molly's the next in line, and she lives in Columbus now. She's been married and divorced and has 1 child. Mary Ann lives in Pensacola, Florida, and she has 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Johnny is a medical doctor at Vanderbilt in Nashville and has 2 boys.
Do you have a special memory about Burnette Hill that you'd like to tell us about?
Red mud. No, there's a lot of special memories from this old place. We were poor, but always had something to eat, and I felt even though we didn't have decent clothes at times, we were always clean because Mother and Dad saw to that. So a lot of special memories.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.
My cousin Kathy. Tell us your name.
My name's Kathy Burnette Martin.
And tell us about your parents.
My father was W.T. and my mom's Jimmy Lou.
And tell us when you were born.
Many years ago, March 23rd, 1951.
And tell us some memories about your father.
You want me to start crying?
That's okay if you do. You don't have to.
He just taught us to work hard and be proud of who we were.
And you're that?
And I'm that.
Okay.
Very
Tell us
much.
about your mother.
She's the one that kept us together. This is terrible, Frankie. She's just the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah. Let's talk about Lizzie a little bit.
She died when I was in the 5th grade.
So you don't remember very well.
Don't remember too much about her. I knew she helped Dad down at the slaughterhouse making mincemeat and that kind of stuff, but I don't have that sharp a memory of her.
Right. Tell us one of your special memories about Burnette Hill.
The Christmases, when all the cousins were living around here, and Sammy and Larry, and we'd all get together in the mornings and have firecrackers and just fireworks and a good time. Everybody seeing what Santa Claus brought. That was some of the best ones, when everybody was small. That's all.
Okay. Okay, my cousin Jimmy, tell us your name.
Jimmy Burnette, James A. Burnette, what I'm known as, but everybody calls me Jimmy.
And tell us about your parents.
W.T. Burnette and Jimmy Lou Burnette, and we've all lived out here on the same place I'm 46 years old now. We've always been on the same hill.
When were you born?
1940, January 9th, 1940.
And tell us some special memories about your dad.
Woo, so many of them. I guess that he would always be at anything I've done, and just always there.
And your mom?
She's about the same way, just always there.
How about Lizzie?
Lizzie, I guess that's the main reason I don't like fishing today is because I used to have to be the one that had to sit on the creek bank with her, make sure she didn't fall in and nothing happened to her, but I'd have to sit there and be real quiet and don't shake, don't move the ground, don't do anything. And so now I can't stand fishing just because I had to watch her all the many years.
How many children do you have?
Got 2 girls and a boy. Got Kim's married, got a grandboy named Cody. She's married to Mitch Bice. And then I got Kelly, married to John Andrews. She lives out here with us too. And then Jim's still at home. He's 18, and he's just true blue Burnette.
What about a special memory about Burnette Hill? Something special you can remember?
Really, all us playing football on Sunday, and Junior and them getting mad and going home taking the ball, but keeping away from us little ones in. But we just had so many good memories out here.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
My cousins, tell me your names.
Bobby Burnette.
And introduce your wife.
Bobby Burnette.
We have the same name, so anybody can remember our names.
Easy. The reason I'm married, I could remember her name.
Tell me your parents.
My parents, Debbie T. Burnette and Jimmy Lou Burnette.
And when were you born?
Born December the 11th, 1932.
And when did you get married?
Got married.
September the 28th.
September the 28th, 1950. Been married 36 years.
And your children?
Bonnie, Ziga, and Denise King. Have 4 grandchildren. 1 girl and 3 boys. What else?
And tell me something special about your dad.
About my dad? Oh, I remember so many things. He's a good, honest man, good Christian man. He was a politician. I remember the years that we worked together in the sausage business and farmed, and I could go on and on, but I'm too sentimental.
How about your mom? That's all right. I feel the same way.
My mother was we had a good Christian home. We were raised right, no problem. Loved each other, loved our family, always have.
How about Lizzie?
Well,
I remember Grandma Lizzie sitting on the fishing bank, fishing.
She used to love to fish, didn't she?
That's the picture I get of Grandma when you...
But she couldn't stand anybody fishing until she fished one time.
That's true.
She wouldn't let any of us go fishing when we was kids. We were always too busy. We had to work. But when Grandmother retired and found out what a fishing pole was and started fishing, then that's all she did, is fished.
How about something special about just living out here on Burnette Hill?
Well, we don't bother each other. We're all mean, stay in our own houses, don't bother anybody. We get along fine. We've been out here all my life, since I was 11 years old, and it's quiet and peaceful, and just one big hill, one big happy family.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
That's all?
Okay, Jimmy, I wanted you to introduce your wife.
This is my better half, Bobby Burnette. They all call her Bobby the girl because there's 3 of us in the family. And this
Jimmy's Bobby.
But it's Jimmy's Bobby.
When did y'all get married?
Long time ago, sugar. We married 30 years in December.
And you've always lived out here on Burnette Hill, haven't you?
Always. We're in our 3rd new house. So every time rent comes due, we build a new one.
Thank you. Is there anything special you want to say?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You can't say it all. Tell us something special about Burnette Hill.
Burnette Hill, well, Jim and I have been married 30 years in December, like I'm saying. And we got 3 wonderful children, 2 girls and a boy. Got 2 great son-in-laws. Wouldn't take nothing for. And we hope little Jim will have us a nice daughter-in-law one day. Won't be long, don't look like. We got a grand boy we're the proudest things in the world of. We got him a year ago tomorrow. He's adopted, but he's just like ours. And we love him to death.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us your name.
Kelly Burnette Andrews.
And who's your dad?
Jimmy Burnette.
And your mom?
Bobby Burnette.
And when were you
Jimmy's
born?
Bobby.
When were you born?
December the 21st, 1961.
And tell us something about Burnett Hill.
It's great. I've been here all my life and probably won't ever leave.
Okay.
Is that enough?
That's enough. Thanks. Tell us your name.
Jim Burnette. I was born October 1967, and I'm 18 years old.
And who's your mom and dad?
Jimmy and Bobby Burnette.
It's pretty obvious, but tell us anyway. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clem Cadiddlehopper.
Tell us your name.
That's it. I really go, Jim Fisher is my real name.
And your wife is?
This is my wife, Sharon. And this is one of our children. Don't lie. Tell them how it really is.
Okay.
And this lady right here, she just...
Tell us your name.
My name's Don Wilson.
And you're married to?
Sharon.
Who is?
Who is the daughter of Frank and Rachel, who has 3 children. Their names are Garrett, Adam, and Angela. And what else do you need to know?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you. Tell us your name.
Sharon Wilson, one of the Burnette children.
Which one?
Okay,
Your mom and dad?
it was Rachel and Frank Burnette, and this is Beverly, sister of Matt.
And when were you married? I mean, when are you born?
February 25th, 1950.
January 18th, 1947.
And tell us something about your feelings about Burnett Hill.
Oh, goodness, it brings back a whole lot of memories to be up here. Playing football on that hill right over there by the lake is about one of the most fun things I can think of. How about you, Beverly?
The parts of our nurturing of our youth are here because there's a solid history behind us of God-fearing people, and that means something in today's world, that these are respectable, upright people who are doing the best they can to live by the light that they have to live their lives. And what more can anybody do than that? So that's a terrific, basic history for our family. That's a precious memory to me, and they're always loving to us, and that's another part of nurturing, that we be loving to one another and care for our loved ones.
Tell us something about your father, your special memory about your father.
Let's see, about Daddy.
I remember one thing in particular that meant a lot to me, which was hard for a lot of people that didn't know the inside of Daddy's heart quite so well. Daddy was always very truthful. And in our youth, Daddy would say if he was spiritually not doing so well. And that was hard for a lot of people to understand that concept, because many people just went on, well, I'm doing great. But Daddy was totally honest about his salvation. So therefore, the last year of Daddy's life, when he was doing so well spiritually, and then when he died, we had the assurance, because Daddy really told you how he was doing spiritually to his own convictions. When he died then, we knew for sure that Daddy's soul was with the Lord in heaven. And that's a precious memory and a precious thing to be able to say about somebody, that he was always honest in his description of his own personal relationship with the Lord at the time, whether it was up, down, or in the middle. Our Daddy was honest in that respect, very much.
Right, I was thinking about yesterday when we turned off the highway at Burnette Road, what a good feeling that was to come to this town and feel like the Burnettes are well known, you know, and all. It made me feel good. When you asked me what I was thinking about Daddy, I was thinking of all the years I used to tag along with Daddy, like maybe, you know, when he was at the furniture store and football games and stuff like that.
And I remember being ashamed to ride with Daddy in that used furniture truck. And now if I could only call back time and ride with Daddy in that used furniture truck, how proud I'd be to be riding with my Daddy. But that's youth and immaturity. And then you turn to be an adult, and you realize the real values.
Remember how we used to make Daddy let us off out of the truck about a block from school, so nobody would see us get out of the truck.
Because we were embarrassed of that used furniture store, and yet that used furniture business and spraying those springs and all those things, that's what raised us and clothed us and fed us and gave us a good childhood. But that's
Right.
youth.
When we ride by the furniture store now, that it's leased out and all, I feel sort of proud now.
I know it. Very proud, but that's maturity. That's growing up. So I think that's one thing to learn. It's just accept those things of youth and go on and learn from them and grow up.
Right.
So maybe we've grown up some, huh?
Right.
Thank you.
We're not quite through.
Oh, excuse me.
We want to tell you how much each one of you means to us and how proud we are of our family and how much we love each one. And Sharon and I talk to one another long distance as much as we do. We pray for one another and for each member of our family, that we don't know God's will, but God knows His will for each one's life, and we pray for God to take care of each situation. And it's in His hands, and we are close and we are forgiving, just as Jesus forgives us. We are forgiving to love one another, that's what really counts.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, now introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Nell Burnette, and I'm married to Hal T. Goodman.
And tell us about your parents.
My parents were Harvey and Myrtle, and Mama was one of 18 children. She was a cook, and my daddy, of course, had 6 brothers and sisters.
When were you born?
I was born November the 22nd, 1931. I remember it real well.
I remember Grandma lived with y'all.
We lived with Grandma.
Okay. Tell us something about that.
I don't remember a whole lot, except Grandma wanted us to work a lot, and she worked a lot outside. She didn't care much for the house. Mama took care of the house, and Grandma took care of the outdoor things. She liked to milk cows and feed her chickens and do things like that.
Tell us something about your dad.
Daddy was a hard worker. I didn't see much of him when I was growing up because he worked all the time. He held down a job in town as well as farming, and we had the dairy farm also. And I learned to milk cows when I was a little girl.
And your mom?
Well, Mama was the sickly person, and we always had help around the house, but she did as much as she could. And then I remember they used to get pecans to pick out to make a little extra money. They got paid 1 and 2 and 3 cents a pound for picking out pecan meats.
And something about Burnette Hill, just a special memory. Living on Burnette Hill.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I can't remember a whole lot, except we had lots of play houses and made playhouses out of tree limbs and things over gullies, and and we used to play a lot in the barns and things, and play church and school and house and all that kind of thing.
You sang today in church. We're hoping later to get you to sing, but tell us something about when you were younger and you used to, with your parents, sing on the radio.
Well, when I was, I think about 6 years old, Daddy started going to singing schools, and we all learned a little bit about singing. We don't know a whole lot now, but we sing because we like to, and not just because it's something to do. And every song that we sing has a message to it, and that's what blesses me. But we used to sing a lot, and Mom and Daddy, I don't know if you know it or not, used to sing for almost every funeral in this county. And I did a lot of playing for them, and I learned to play, having to play for Mom and Daddy, and learned to sing because we just had to sing. We were called on, and we did have a radio broadcast from the church, and we would go and sing on the radio. But I've never been a singer, I just sing.
Well, you did good today. We enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. It's because of what's on the inside of my heart, I think, more than my voice.
I believe that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm married to a preacher, and I love my church work. I've been married 33 years, and we've pastored 4 churches in that time, and 11 years was the longest we stayed at one place, and we've been where we are now 8 years, and I think we're going to retire there.
Thank you.
All of my children are involved in church work in one way or other. For 27 years, I believe I have served as president or vice president of our women's ministries of our conference. And my daughter, Retta, I have 4 children, by the way. Retta is a conference Christian education director, and Ronnie is a real good participant in church, and Tim works in children's church and things like that. And we have a little Down syndrome child. She's 9 years old, and she loves to go to church, and she keeps us all busy, hopping around all the time.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I love to see you. I'm so glad to see you. I wouldn't miss this.
Okay, my name's Martha Wright today.
And your maiden name?
Martha Burnette.
And your parents?
Lois and Jerry Burnette.
And tell us when you were born.
June the 22nd, 1940.
And tell us something about your dad.
Oh, my dad was a very hard-working man. He worked in the grocery store business, and then he kind of retired and got into fishing a lot. But he's a good man.
And your mom?
That's Lois. Lois Bevel Burnette. She's still here with us, like your mom. And she still lives in the same place where she lived when Dad died. And she's planning on moving real soon, though. She's gonna move to town, do you know it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, tell us some special memory about Burnette Hill when you were younger.
Oh, the red hill. It was always red, and always getting spankings and getting dirty and getting in trouble. And not real trouble. Nothing that y'all would know about, really. It's just little silly things. Jumping in the lake, jumping in the creek. Just weird things. Country things.
Anything special you want to tell us about?
No, I'm just really glad we all got together, and I hope we can do this, every year.
They set a date, I understand.
Yeah, second Sunday every August.
Jesus is Lord.